You were told to be gentle, to be soft, to be nice, to clip your claws, hush your voice, and empty yourself of anything others might find threatening. You were taught to smile when you wanted to roar, to apologize when you hadn't sinned, to suppress every surge of instinct, every flicker of fury, until the only thing left was a hollow, nodding puppet. And they praised you for it, said you were mature, said you were safe, said you were a good boy. But here's the truth no one dared speak. They weren't shaping a man. They were taming a weapon, blunting a blade they didn't want to be cut by. Now you walk through life unarmed, disarmed, domesticated, like a lion that thinks it's a lamb because it's been in a cage so long it forgot how to bite. You wonder why no one respects you, why women overlook you, why other men don't fear you, why your soul aches in quiet moments, not with sadness, but shame. The shame of knowing you've betrayed something inside you. You've confused safety with strength, but they're not the same. One makes you acceptable, the other makes you sovereign. Carl Jung warned us about men like this. Men who amputate their instincts and call it healing. Men who sterilize their souls and call it peace. Men who confuse silence with virtue and weakness with wisdom. He knew what modern psychology has forgotten. A man's aggression is not his enemy. It's his engine. Repressed aggression doesn't vanish. It decays. It festers. It twists itself into passive rage, manipulation, porn addiction, quiet resentment, emotional collapse. You think you're calm? You're numb. You think you're peaceful? You're avoidant. You've built your entire life around being not dangerous. But do you know what's more terrifying than a dangerous man? A man who thinks he's harmless, but is ruled by a shadow he refuses to see. The moment you denied your darkness, you surrendered your strength. You stopped being a man. You became a role, a performance, a pleaser with no principle. And now you're spiritually starving. Not because you're broken, but because you're buried beneath layers of masks, scripts, social training, self-betrayal. You abandoned your edge to be liked. You sold your fire to be loved. And now, no one fears you. No one follows you. And worst of all, no one feels you. Because you don't feel yourself. You've anesthetized your own masculinity in the name of fitting in. But fitting in is not the same as standing tall. Approval is not the same as power. Validation is not the same as value. And if you want to become a man again, a real one, you will have to dig up everything you buried. The rage, the hunger, the truth. You will have to face the parts of you they told you were too much, too wild, too intense, too dangerous. You will have to face the shadow, not to destroy it, but to remember who you are. Because a man without his shadow is not a saint. He is a shell. Carl Jung didn't want men to be safe. He wanted them to be sovereign, to integrate the beast, not pretend it didn't exist. Because until you do that, you are just an empty suit of armor, clinking through life, hollow, tame, and quietly dying inside. You weren't just born into a world that fears masculine power. You were trained to fear it, too. From your earliest years, every system you touched, school, religion, media, therapy, whispered the same message. Real masculinity is dangerous. Strong men hurt people. Nice boys get loved. Angry boys get left behind. And like any obedient son of the modern age, you believed it. You grew up in the cult of castration. Not the physical kind, but the spiritual kind. The kind that amputates your aggression and calls it enlightenment. The kind that trades your soul for social acceptance. The kind that teaches you how to smile while you're dying inside. They told you to talk about your feelings, but only if those feelings were tame, polite, digestible. They told you to be vulnerable, but only if that vulnerability made you less of a threat. Anger? Too toxic. Sexual desire? Too predatory. Ambition? Too oppressive. Conviction? Too rigid. So you chipped away at yourself, piece by piece, until what remained was a sanitized version of you. House-trained, housebroken, spiritually declawed. And then they told you, this is maturity. But it wasn't. It was self-betrayal dressed up as growth. It was your initiation into the Church of Nice, where men are praised for being palatable, but punished for being powerful. Carl Jung saw this happening a century ago. He wrote of the shadow, the repressed, unseen parts of your psyche that, when denied, grow monstrous in the dark. He warned, what you resist not only persists, it grows. The moment you suppress your instincts, they don't disappear. They turn against you. That buried aggression doesn't dissolve. It mutates into addiction, into depression, into shame-fueled compliance, into men who smile at their own funerals, not realizing they died long before they were buried. And society loves you like this. Your boss loves you like this. Your girlfriend might even love you like this. Because you are manageable, predictable, powerless. But what about you? Do you love you like this? Can you even feel yourself anymore? Or have you become a ghost in your own life? The tragedy is not that men are dangerous. It's that so few men are dangerous on purpose. They're ruled by shadows they never confronted, haunted by desires they never claimed, and worshiping a version of masculinity designed to keep them enslaved. Here's the truth no one's telling you. You were not meant to be harmless. You were not built to be liked. You were not born to fit in. You were made to stand up, to resist, to rebel, to rise, not in childish rage, but in conscious power. But to rise, you must first remember what was buried. Your fire, your fury, your instinct, your manhood. And that remembering, that reintegration of what was cut from you, is the beginning of real individuation. Not healing, not getting better, but becoming whole. Not safe, not sweet, not sterile, but whole. Because a whole man is not always easy to love, but he is impossible to ignore. Every time you silenced yourself to be loved, a fracture appeared in your psyche. Every moment you said, yes, when your body screamed, no. You taught your nervous system that safety required self-erasure. And now, years later, you walk around wondering why you feel hollow. Here's why. Because your shadow is not some distant demon. It's the part of you you locked in the basement, so you could survive the dinner party. You didn't outgrow your primal nature. You outcast it. You exiled it. And now, like all exiles, it's plotting its return. Carl Jung called this the shadow possession. When the repressed becomes the ruler. You think you're the one making decisions? Think again. That porn habit? That need to be liked? That inability to set boundaries? That rage that erupts when you're finally alone? It's not just who you are. It's your shadow slipping through the cracks. Because it's tired of being caged. You weren't born with shame. It was installed. By parents who feared your intensity. By teachers who rewarded obedience over truth. By a culture that profits off your self-doubt. And the deeper the shame, the louder the performance. You wear masks. You recite scripts. You try to win games you secretly despise. And here's the worst part. You succeed. You get the girl. You get the job. You get the praise. But you never get yourself. Because the man they love isn't real. He's a projection. A ghost. A brand. You sacrificed your soul at the altar of acceptance. And now you're paying for it in quiet resentment. This is the psychological betrayal Jung warned about. When a man trades his inner truth for outer peace. And it's spiritual suicide. Because the self, the real self, doesn't just want to be liked. It wants to be whole. That means it wants your rage, your lust, your hunger, your ambition, your madness. Not tamed, not polished, integrated. And here's the paradox. The more of yourself you reclaim, the more the world will resist you. Because you stop being a product. You stop being predictable. You stop being profitable. You become dangerous. Not because you hurt people, but because you can't be controlled. You become your own center of gravity, your own source of validation, your own sovereign man. And to a culture built on dependency, there's nothing more terrifying than that. So yes, you will be shamed for remembering who you are. But the emptiness, the numbness, the quiet suffering, that only ends when you stop abandoning yourself. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your exiled king. Bring him home. You keep looking for peace in the world, but you haven't made peace with your own reflection. You want love, but you haven't loved the parts of you that disgust you. You want power, but you haven't reclaimed what you gave away to be accepted. Here's the brutal truth. You are not a victim. You are a volunteer. You volunteered to betray your voice, to please the crowd. You volunteered to bury your hunger, to be seen as safe. You volunteered to shrink your soul, to be palatable to a dying culture. That was your agreement. And now it's time to break it. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is not self-help. This is self-confrontation. Because healing isn't a spa day. It's a funeral. The death of who you were told to be. The burial of every false self. The cremation of every persona you wore to survive. You don't find your true self. You forge it. In fire. In silence. In solitude. In discipline, you stop asking the world who you are, and you start answering the question with your life. No therapist can do that for you. No podcast can do it. No book. No mentor. Only you. And yes, the moment you stop playing the game, you'll be hated for it. They'll call you arrogant, cold, toxic, unhinged. But what they really mean is, you stop being easy to control. Because the man who integrates his shadow is no longer chasing approval. He's building a kingdom, one boundary at a time, one silence at a time, one confrontation at a time. You learn to sit in discomfort without flinching, to say no without apologizing, to hold the line even when your voice shakes. Because power isn't loud. Power is presence. And presence is forged in the quiet war of everyday choices. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to be understood. Stop waiting for permission. You won't be handed your wholeness. You'll have to fight for it. The good news? The enemy isn't your job. It's not your ex. It's not your parents. It's not society. It's the part of you that still believes you're not enough without their love. Kill that part. Mourn it. Thank it for trying to protect you. Then burn it down. Because beneath that mask you've worn for decades is the only man who was ever real. And he's done begging to be seen. You've been taught that power is about dominance, status, words, noise, reaction. But Carl Jung knew something deeper. The man who knows himself becomes immune to manipulation. Not because he controls others, but because he no longer needs to. Power isn't about force. It's about gravity. The gravity of a man who doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, doesn't chase. You want to be that man? Then kill the part of you that's addicted to being understood. Burn the part that performs, that softens truth to be liked, that bends your spine to avoid disapproval. You are not here to be palatable. You are not here to be liked. You are here to see clearly. And clarity requires sacrifice. The sacrifice of comfort. The sacrifice of narrative. The sacrifice of self-pity. When you drop the script, you become dangerous. Because most men are just characters. Puppets. Masks stitched together by validation. But you are not a mask. You are the fire underneath it. So here's your weapon. Silence. Silence is not weakness. It's presence without performance. It's control without conflict. It's dominion over yourself. And when you master silence, you become the mirror no one wants to look into, but no one can ignore. Your stillness becomes confrontation. Your eye contact becomes violence. Your absence becomes a roar. Jung called this the integration of the shadow, the unification of the warrior and the poet. Because when you know your darkness, you're no longer ruled by it. You're guided by it. You become a man who can destroy, but chooses restraint. Not because you're weak, but because you know where your sword is and when to draw it. The truly powerful man doesn't need to speak. He only needs to stand. And when you stand in your center, not for applause, not for praise, but because truth has weight and you carry it, you become untouchable, not unreachable, not unfeeling, not numb. And that's the man the world fears. Because he cannot be seduced. He cannot be guilt. He cannot be bought. He has stared into the abyss of himself and made it his ally. He is no longer playing the game. He is the game. You thought the emptiness was a flaw, a failure, a sign that something was wrong with you. But what if it was something else entirely? What if the emptiness was your signal? The pulse of something sacred trying to awaken? Carl Jung didn't believe your pain was meaningless. He believed it was a message. The emptiness is the proof of your potential. Not because you're missing something, but because what's meant to fill you hasn't yet been born. You've been trying to fill that void with validation, with status, with sex, with distraction, with therapy that soothes your wounds but never asks, what are you becoming? You've been healing yourself, only to go back to the same cage, only to become more socially acceptable, more emotionally fluent, but still fundamentally disconnected from your soul. Here's the truth. You're not tired. You're starving. Starving for meaning. Starving for purpose. Starving for yourself. Because for years, you fed everyone else. You became what they needed. You wore the mask. You played the role. You kept the peace. You muted the war inside you. And now the soul is whispering, enough. The reason you feel hollow is because your true self has been buried. Under performance. Under trauma. Under the soft velvet of approval. And Jung warned us. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not the man your mother preferred. Not the man society rewarded. Not the man your ex fantasized about. But the man you were born to remember. Individuation isn't a hobby. It's not a weekend project. It is the excruciating rebirth of a man who's tired of being a ghost. You will lose people. You will shed skins. You will grieve who you used to be. But what you gain is worth the funeral. You gain centeredness, clarity, peace without numbness, power without noise. You gain your soul, not as a concept, but as a force. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop understanding your emptiness and finally start answering it? This is your call to war, but not a war out there, a war in here, a war to reclaim every inch of your being from the hands of the world that told you who to be. So stop asking if you're enough. You are not here to be enough for them. You are here to become whole, no matter the cost. This is your fire. Feed it.